That's because I don't have the ability to post up screenshots on my YouTube from my phone, and doing so on my computer takes for fucking ever. Anyway, let's get started. Situation with Zack Richmans. And how about prison? Well, I have been to prison. They had to drop the charges, as always. Why is it they're allowed to press false charges on me every time I try to turn them in? Why is it the people they tell me to turn it in to tell me it's not their job? So we're going to talk about red flags here. We know what those are. Why do cutters cut? I mean, there's a lot of reasons that go deep down into it, and it's not always your dad, not always your uncle, not always your mom, not always your aunt. Most of the time, however, statistically, if you're cutting on yourself, number one, your dad couldn't keep his nasty cock beaters off of you. He felt that you were a sexual object rather than a daughter or a son. And I do have to point out that "or a son" part, because you guys seem to have all sorts of ideas about male victims that are entirely biased and hateful towards the male victims. You get to see through all of this how me, as a male victim, is treated completely differently. How my evidence, people outright refuse to even look at it. Like, if they don't look at it, then somehow magically they're doing the right. No, you're not. You're letting someone be victimized because you're a sexist pig. How is that fucking okay? I don't think it is. Now, of course, with that cutting, where does that come from? Daddy can't keep his nasty cock beaters to himself. And of course, mommy wouldn't listen. Mommy didn't care. That's statistically. We all tell somebody. We try to tell somebody. And that somebody, there's the real kicker there. A lot of people want to say, oh, well, you didn't try. No, we absolutely did try. We were being abused. We were following the course that we're supposed to follow. Most of us, growing up in the system, you know who you're supposed to go to. You also know it doesn't fucking work. It doesn't work. But people want to keep on telling you you have to do it. So you do it over and over again, and it just doesn't work. And they don't get that the missing ingredient there between it working and it not working is whether or not someone else gives a shit. And generally they do not. But they'll play you. They'll pretend that they care. They'll pretend like you're important. But really, it comes down to having somebody to bitch at when their life sucks. When things aren't going great or perfect in their life, you know, you're only their friend so that they have someone to bitch at when things don't go well. And they get so used to you being that person that they just never shut the fuck up. Holy Christ. Well, Zack Richmans, he just wouldn't shut up, would he? Now, what did he tell us? He told us a lot of things that are red flags and that, of course, make it so that young woman, well, she needs to be put in a safe place. And I don't mean a mental institution. If she's cutting on herself, then somebody's touching her in a bad way, in a way that he ain't supposed to. Now, of course, we know she's got an older brother. His name is Cooper, and he is 21. And we know that the father's name is Zack Richmans, and he's crusty, but he's not as crusty as me. And then we have Jennifer Richmans, that's his mother, or the young woman's mother. Now, what's this got to do with prison? Well, I don't mess around with kids. I'm not interested in kids. I don't want to hang out with kids. I don't want to play with kids. I'd rather have a dog. The problem with kids is that although your intentions may be plain and clear and simple, you just can't get those nuggets out of people's heads when they're fucking paranoid. And then, of course, you're not judged by anything that you've done, you're judged by their paranoia. As a male, I highly recommend never, ever, if you have a penis, seek a job in teaching or in childcare. For me, I fell into childcare. This is because every time somebody needed somebody that they could actually trust not to fuck their kids, I was the only person that they could find. Everybody else either had a job or was very, 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 very far away. And of course, through all those years, look at all them kids I helped to raise. Let's see, let's look at Jerry Sparks' kids. They're all grown up. Jennifer Sparks. Ask her, did I ever molest her? Nope. How about Donnie Sparks? Ask him. How about Tyler Frericks? Their brother. It's actually Jennifer Frericks, not Jennifer Sparks. Her mother's maiden name is Sparks. The thing is, that was just never something I was interested in. Now, you can also see with most of these kids, some of them do have boundary issues. Most of them don't. Most of them are well-grounded. Donnie had to deal with being molested by one of Miss Jerry's female co-workers at a child care facility in, God, where was that? I want to say that was in Rapid City, South Dakota. Miss Jerry is one of those people who is dependent on others. If she doesn't have others that she can, well, you guys call it mooching, I call it survival. If she doesn't have other people that she can survive on, she's screwed. So she basically follows Lana wherever Lana moves. Lana will follow Sammy and Shelly pretty much wherever they move. Of course, now she's got herself settled in a nice place in the Latin Gateway, so if Sammy and Shelly moved on, that wouldn't be necessary. Now, what does all this have to do with Zack Reichman? Well, all these people I know from Chapel, Nebraska, most of these people know each other. Zack Reichman, he made a post about Pastor Rod Wright, that's his father-in-law. And of course, I did take screenshots of it, and I also shared it on my timeline so you guys can see it. He was on her Facebook when I was on the phone with him, by his own admission. And with the things that he was saying about her cutting on herself, really the question isn't, oh, well, why isn't she in a mental hospital? It's who the fuck is touching her, and why isn't anyone doing anything about it? Why is she being victimized? Why is she now stuck with the mentally ill tag? Because she was forced to do something desperate to try to get heard. Why didn't you listen? Now, you get to hear in that recording with Zack Reichman, where I do ask. I ask if Pastor Wright is a child molester. You guys know how the churches be these days. You figure you're going there to get a little spirituality, but instead you got a pastor or preacher or a priest getting a little liquored up themselves and touching your little boys and little girls in places they shouldn't. Primarily little boys. That's right, males can be victims. Do you know why the Catholic Church is able to get away with this for so long? It's not just playing on religion and the freedom of religion here in the United States. No. Your religion does not supersede something like this. If your religion says that it's okay for you to rape children, no, abso-fucking-lutely not. But then again, you look at the victims. Oh, there's a bug on my shirt. Let's see. Blew him off rather than flick him. I don't want to inflict any damage upon him. He didn't do nothing to me. All right, so Getting back to the situation with this young woman. Chapel, Nebraska is a small town. Somebody knows something, and that young woman told somebody who it is that touched her. All those cuts, every one of them is either somebody that she tried to tell or the hopeless moments when she realized that she'd already tried them all, and none of them listened, none of them heard her. What happens when a girl cuts on herself? We already know what the Dual County Sheriff's Department's going to do because it's protocol nationwide. We're going to lock up the victim. We're going to have first we're going to give the victim a choice. All right, well, you can either come with us and you're going to get put in a lockup facility, or you can stay here with your predator. So, those are your two choices. What does that young woman usually choose? That depends on if she's smart or not. If she's smart, she'll just let them do it over and over and over again, and hopefully when she turns 18, they don't still have her on a leash for something. That's the reality of it. So, although I don't have any interest in contacting any 16-year-old girls, if a 16-year-old girl got a hold of me, told me that she was being molested and abused, and that she doesn't want to cut on herself anymore. She wants to turn these people in, and she needs protection. What is my job at that point? I want all you guys to stop for a moment and think about that. What is my duty and responsibility at that point? Come on, folks, this ain't Jeopardy. My job at that point is to go down there and put my physical body in between that young woman and whoever the hell her predators are. So if she got a hold of me and said, yeah, my daddy's doing this, or Cooper's doing this, or Grandpa Rod Wright is doing this, I already know I'd get arrested just trying to get there. I'm already well aware, but you goddamn right I'd make the fucking effort. I'd also make a lot of fucking noise. Now you get to hear in that conversation with Zack, not just his own mental issues, you also get to hear how he's got a lot of delusional thinking, actual delusional thinking. Fuck. That's hard to contend with. That's like trying to deal with Ed. I mean, Ed is schizoaffective, and if you've ever dealt with somebody who's schizoaffective, yes, it can be a very scary situation. I have noticed that schizoaffective disorder tends to afflict more people who are dumb as a fucking stump, whereas full-on just schizophrenia tends to happen to people who are highly intelligent. Dementia, too. Like, I don't know very many, and don't get me wrong, I met some stupid people who are demented, and I've met a few of them that have dementia. Sorry, we got some really cool birds here. And one of them sounds like a hummingbird. I'm not sure if you could pick it up. It was only for a couple of seconds there. It's frustrating. I do want to show you something real quick just because I think it's important. As far as my building ideas go, that right there is a blackberry bush. Do you see how long that shoot is? That's a good 12 to 15 feet in the air at least. No, people don't want to walk through that. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that stalk is a lot bigger than my thumb. No, that's a rose bush. That's actually a wild rose bush. I should have taken a look at the leaves instead of just assuming, because right here, you can see we got a blackberry right here. These are all blackberries over here. You can see them starting to sprout up. See that yellow coloration? That's because it's not getting enough sun because of stuff that's up there. But if you look at that stuff up there, a lot of it's getting dried up and falling off. That tree's almost dead. Over in this direction, we got something that, especially at night, looked like part of a horror movie. But if you notice, on that rose bush over there, there's some big splines on it, just like there's some on these things right here. Some of the bigger raspberry bushes, they're pretty thick, but they usually grow sideways, which is why that one caught my eye. All right, so we're getting back to the situation at hand. I'm sorry for going all OCD on you. It's obsessive compulsive disorder. But those of you who are aware and know your mental illnesses are aware that that is not OCD, is it? No, it's not. That's a attention deficit issue right there. Attention deficit, oh, squirrel. Or attention deficit, oh, shiny. Are we getting off topic here? Oh, hell yes, we are. I just got to take the small moments and enjoy them when you got them. When it comes to Zack and his situation and all of the information that he shared with me, now, that is information that should be shared with law enforcement. You also get to see that call after call after call, law enforcement blows me off and makes any excuse. Any crime against me is somehow magically not a crime. Or magically, even if it's in their jurisdiction, it's not in their jurisdiction. They even have to outright, and this is the best part about recording it, they even had to outright have a judge reword a question and try to turn it into a threat himself because Leslie Snell did a piss poor fucking job. There's also the fact that I could back my shit up with the threats, harassment, and intimidation by the police. By that point, going back all the way back to 2018, which Amanda DeMette, by her own admission, was aware of. She's also using the corruption in western Nebraska as one of her excuses now. She's afraid of the corruption, and rightly so, but she needs to say it. Now, I definitely could. I could post all of that as far as the screenshots go of our conversations and texting. I could post all of that up right now. What I'm trying to do is give her the opportunity to come forward and be honest for once. If all of these reasons, 6 years of reasons, are true, and you didn't help me because of these 6 years worth of excuses, then you need to come forward about that. Just one person coming forward about that would have been enough for me to get a new court date in all of my court. Ugh. Now, why didn't that happen to begin with? Why didn't my attorneys make any efforts whatsoever to actually do their fucking jobs? Because they don't make any effort to do their fucking jobs when you're homeless, unless someone cares. Not pretend he cares, like what I gotta deal with. Like those people who wanna get a hold of me and pretend like they're my friends and they're gonna help me, and it ends up being a fake profile like Layla Johnson. Yep, or Kara Johnson Miles. There's a fucking wingnut and a half. Was she actually interested in helping me? No. She was pretending to be an autism advocate. Now it's a much different situation than with Megan Missigatis. Megan Missigatis did not have ill intent to begin with. And her ill intent now extends only as far as keeping her ass out of fucking prison. With Amanda, she wanted to tell me that the laws as far as Nebraska goes and her being a mandated reporter, well, they don't matter because she's leaving Nebraska yesterday. Well, fine, pull out your pocket lawyer handbook. You go ahead and play with that. But I let you know while you were in Nebraska, and now you're fleeing the state of Nebraska, which makes it a federal crime. Is anybody actually going to investigate that? Is anybody going to look into it? Is anybody going to do a goddamn thing about it? No. What are the chances that Rod Wright is touching little girls in Chapel, Nebraska? I don't know. I do know that based upon his chosen profession and also the fact that he's faking it, he's not even an ordained minister, not even on the internet. How sad is that? Talks about his God, but then shows that he is godless. Well, I would expect nothing less. I would expect nothing less out of anyone from his religion, because I've lived in Chapel, Nebraska. Let me tell you about my first day in Chapel, Nebraska. This is a beautiful day. So, my mom and my older brother and my little sister and my stepdad picked me up at the Denver airport. My dad made me cut my hair so I wouldn't get beaten up in Chapel, Nebraska for being gay. It was very sad. My hair went down to my backside. It was a beautiful head of hair. That's not important. On the way to Chapel, Nebraska, my older brother gives me a piece of advice. He says, I'll probably have a crush on Cami Hawkins, but Cami Hawkins has two brothers, Little Hawk and Big Hawk, and Little Hawk is big. So then I get to Chapel, and of course, I go to the pump and pantry, the local gas station, and there's two men outside, and they're talking about being in the KKK. Well, we know what that is. If you look up Chapel, Nebraska, KKK, CHAPPELL, Nebraska, KKK, you'll see what I'm talking about. So, my mom goes to the Chapel Assembly of God. That's the same church that Zack Richmans, Dallas Richmans, and Brittany Richmond, and Nicole Knudsen, and Rhonda Knudsen Rust, and Todd Rust, and Mark Richmond all go to. Mark Richmond later, yeah, we found out what he did, and he is a registered sex offender because of it. Oh, gross. Now, who is it that is accepted by the family, and who is it that is ostracized by the family? Well, Mark Richmond is accepted as part of the family, and his victim is ostracized. Her family blames her. She's the victim, but they blame her. It's her fault. She must have made him. She must have made him. That's right. This underage girl at the time, she's an adult now with her own kids, but she was underage at the time. And her own family, to this day, treats her like it was her fault. Like she chose for that sick old man to do things that you don't do with your daughter. You don't do that. You sick fuck. I don't know who it is that did whatever they did to Zack Richmans' daughter. But you goddamn right I'd go back to prison to protect her. You goddamn right I'd take another assault from another fucking child molester to protect her. You fucking goddamn right I would. You want to tell me about your God? You want to tell me about saying the Lord's name in vain? No. No, what you're doing is using the Lord's name in vain, homie. When you want to hide behind the pulpit. Oh, yeah. And you want to use that as your excuse. Oh, you could never do something like that. You're a man of God. You could never do something like that. You're a nurse. You could do no harm to anyone. You have a badge. And you're getting to see time and again how your thinking that way is allowing innocent people to be murdered wholesale. What are the chances that Zack Richmans' daughter will kill herself? What are the chances that she will have, especially since she knows about her dad and I, she knows about her uncles and I, she knows I stuck up for her Uncle Coda a lot. He's a little asswipe, but I love him. You can't be involved in the Richmond family and not know who Sean Schwartz is. Now, let's get back to the tale of how I met Zack Richmond and his family. Zack Richmond was still underage at the time. He was about his daughter's age, if not younger. He was definitely younger, because I would have been 15. So my first day there, I go to Pump and Pantry a second time because my mom had a Mountain Dew cup and it was filled with bleach. And I took a big slurp of it and projectile puked all over the kitchen. Yeah, first day in Nebraska. Gotta love it. So I went to the Pump and Pantry to get some milk to try to puke up. Oh my God, it was gross. And there was a guy there named Jeremiah Jensen. And now this little fuckhead is in a lot of my stories, including a whole shit ton that I haven't told yet. They're not as important. They're minor parts. They don't really matter. Jeremiah Jensen himself wasn't exactly a problem for me. It was how other people treated me over Jeremiah. Including Candace Bondurant. If Candace Bondurant, even after all the fucked up shit that she did to me, and she is the worst friend I've ever had. You can't have a worse friend than Candace Bondurant. I mean, what she did and when she did it and how she played it off, yeah, that's not a friend. That's a horrible excuse for a human being. I can understand with Natalie Bollinger, with her family being the fucked up people that they are. But by God, Candace ain't got that going on. I have met her family. All right, I have eaten dinner at her house many a time. I know her family. Candace, don't play me for stupid. I know them. When her brother Chance died, he was the only friend I had in Chapel. Sure, everybody else ripped me off or skeezed me at some point in time, but Chance, yeah, when he fucked me over, and he did so intentionally. He was a selfish asshole, but he was a selfish asshole who tried to make shit right because he was taught right by his granddaddy. At least on that aspect. Now, maybe Zack Richmond's the sick bastard who's not keeping his hands to himself. Maybe Rod Wright's the sick bastard who's not keeping his hands to himself. Then again, from what we know about female predators and the fact that, especially given the information we're getting from Facebook and Twitter, women are 60% more likely to be a sexual predator than a man. They're also 11 times more likely to be stalkers. Men are more likely to be convicted by a lot. Yeah, look it up. Sandy Fromm didn't even get a slap on the fucking wrist for all the hell that she put Toby Smith through. This guy is a big Billy badass biker. He's also disabled now. Yep. When you're disabled, you can talk all the big game you want. When you're disabled, you can't protect yourself, you can't defend yourself, and you're dealing with a fucking psycho female. Holy fucking shit. Who are you gonna call? Ghostbusters! Well, you gotta call somebody. What's the Dual County Sheriff's Department gonna do? In most cases, jack shit. In the case of Toby Smith, a little bit more than otherwise they would have, because, of course, they knew that Sandy Fromm had their fucking numbers. And I don't mean phone numbers. Sandy Fromm had it out for them cops, and them cops had it out for her. Toby Smith just gave them an excuse to pull in the reins. Is Sandy Fromm a victim of Dual County Sheriff's Department targeting? Yes. Other than the targeting, is she a victim? No. Much different situation. Sandy Fromm was in trouble for drinking and driving. Was she drinking and driving? Yes, she was. Were they the bad guys for pulling her over for drinking and driving? No. Were they the bad guys for not arresting her and making sure she didn't get out for a good long while the third, fourth, and fifth time they busted her? That's absolutely their fault. By the time my birthday rolled around in, what was it, 2020, 2021, when McPhee is talking about the situation, when he said, I saved her ass and maybe even a few lives. Well, of course. That was my birthday. That was my birthday present. Saving lives. Driving Sandy Fromm around because she was having problems even speaking English. She was able to speak enough English to tell me the first and last name of that Tim feller who she was trying to hire to kill me. It didn't work out so good, did it? Now, is it against the law for her to hire somebody to kill me or to attempt it? Yes, it is. Is it recorded? Yes, it is. Is it on YouTube? No, it's not. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of evidence, and it all takes time to process. There's also the stuff that it takes time to edit, and although I'm against editing, you have to do that in order to show it to the public. There's stuff you can't show. Now, if there's somebody who scams you, like let's say somebody pretends to be an autism advocate, and they're not, and they don't do the job of an autism advocate, and they're not following the local laws, they're not following the regional laws, and they're not following the federal laws, what am I to do? Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that I end up getting into that is due to my mouth. I mean, hell, I got this bump right here yesterday from running my mouth, maybe the day before. Now, is that from somebody hitting me? No. It's more likely that I ran into something like this, or that I was sitting down and poked myself with one of these, or, maybe it's a reaction to a bug bite. Who knows? But because I was busy talking at the time, well, I don't even know where it come from. Now, there's also the fact that I'm off in the woods, and there's been a few spiders here that have landed next to me. I'm already itchy. I got to take a shower, but I'm already itchy and paranoid about spiders. Why am I paranoid about spiders? Because I just saw a spider. Would I be this itchy if I hadn't seen a spider? Well, there's also mites out here. But if I had not seen any mites or spiders, it wouldn't occur to me that I need to check when something itches, because it might be a mosquito, might be a spider, might be something I don't want sucking my blood. When people told me their reasons for not coming forward, and then they wanted to claim I was slandering them because I said those things. Well, it's not slander. It came out of your mouth. So did you slander yourself? If you slandered yourself to me, you lied to me. Why did you lie to me? It's a good question. There's also the fact that this boil on my backside is leaking again. These pants that I'm wearing are not as dark as the last ones. And of course, it's going to look like I am leaking out my back. Well, I guess technically I am. Anyway, I suppose I should take that as my cue to go find a Band-Aid and use some of my triple antibiotic ointment and try to heal up a wound. That ain't where you're supposed to inject somebody, by the way. The crease in between the buttocks and the upper thigh, or the upper hamstring, that crease is not where you're supposed to insert a needle. These things didn't happen to me because I asked for them. These things happened to me because you let them. You. Now, a lot of folks want to use situations that happened after the fact out of necessity as their excuses. Oh, well, Sean, you shouldn't have broken those windows. How long after I first came to you, Amanda DeMette, did I break those windows? Megan Missigatis, how many times had I gone to you about the threats, harassment, and assaults against me in Chapel, Nebraska? And had you tell me it's not your job, it's not your job, it's not your job before I finally broke those windows? It's a good question. Oh, Sean, if you hadn't done that, if you hadn't done that, should I have had to do that? Should that have been necessary? Should it? I say no. That absolutely should not have been necessary. And the situation with Andrew Witcher being a friggin' sexual predator, not cool. The fact that his victim still has to live in a house with him is fucking gross. The fact that it's in Dual County where they protect their child molesters and allow the child molesters to be a part of the family but not the victims. Well, this is fucked up. And then, of course, there's people like my mom, who's a master manipulator. My sister, she knows how. And I'm hoping that she'll try to utilize those skills in this situation. And how horrible is that? It's pretty horrible. I shouldn't have to depend on my little sister's devious nature, especially when my little sister doesn't want to be devious. When she had my niece, she didn't want to be that person anymore. She didn't want to use what she had learned from my mother, that lying and manipulating people. She didn't want to do that. And she still doesn't. Unless she is absolutely fucking petrified, she's not going to. That's where a lot of these people, when they realize I'm telling the truth, when they actually look up the laws, they're like, holy shit, Sean's right. I better fucking cover my ass and start looking for loopholes. You know, you could have tried looking at that shit before instead of treating me like I'm a fucking idiot. Then there's the ones who, they wanted to go at each other's throats, and then later on they want to work together. That's Alyssa Rainwater and, of course, two other of my predators. That includes Miss Peaches and Shannon Alvarado. They don't like the truth about them being up. They don't like the fact that I spoke up. They also don't like the fact that even though they have tried to get their videos taken down, it's not against YouTube's rules. So they're still up. The evidence that they not only fucked with me and lied to me, yeah, I said every good thing these people did or claimed that they were trying to do. Did they follow through? Of course they didn't. Is anyone gonna bother to find out who it is that is doing those things to Zack Reichmans' daughter? Or are you going to wait until she cuts her wrists in a bathtub at 23 years of age? Why would she do it in a bathtub? Easier cleanup. That's the number one thing going through people's minds when they're women before they kill themselves, is the person who's going to have to clean it up. Isn't that odd? For me, I don't think about the person who's going to have to clean it up necessarily. I think of anyone who's going to have to see it. That's why I believe that the humane thing to do is to have booths where we can go sit in the booth, press the magic button, go to sleep, get cremated, and crapped out the other end of the machine. I don't care what they do with my ashes. Now, who is it? The police and the bullies, or the people that I went to for help that pushed me to commit suicide? It was people like Candace Bondurant telling me how afraid she was for her kids, telling me about them being threatened and harassed by local law enforcement and by her own landlord. It was Cara Rogers, aka Caramia, getting a hold of me and letting me know people are sending her pictures of her son with a noose around his neck, saying that they're going to kill him. It was people like Danica Garner and Rochelle Shelley Campbell, two of Ted Bollinger's exes, letting me know how absolutely petrified of him they really are. It was going to Todd Ryan cases and not just hearing, but seeing the abuse. And knowing that because of my legal issues over the Natalie Bollinger situation, I couldn't do a goddamn thing about it. Well, I found a way to do something about it, didn't I? I got a hold of Miss Peaches. Not only did I get a hold of Miss Peaches, I recorded it. I recorded it after the fact as well. Several conversations with Miss Peaches. You're goddamn right. Chloe Pachovas was in a shitty situation and she needed the fucking hell out of there. And while you guys want to use your dead relatives as excuses for not telling the truth, let me tell you something. Chloe Pachovas, I knew she was in an impossibly fucked situation just a few days after Natalie disappeared. And at first, what did I do? I tried to focus on the Natalie situation, but I always make sure I let someone know. And who did I let know? Miss Peaches. Does Miss Peaches admit that I let her know? Absolutely she does. When I told Miss Peaches, hey, Miss Peaches, you got to show up. This is not the same Todd we know. This is not the same guy. And Chloe is in a very scary and shitty fucking situation. And she showed up. And she saw how shitty that situation was. And she got a hold of Chloe Pachovas' sister and got Chloe safe. Chloe is doing much better now. She works with autistic children now. She's also a witness to the situation. Her boyfriend, Todd Ryan Case, was all fucked up on ketamine. There's not a whole lot I can do, but you know what? All I needed from these people was for them to tell the truth, to be honest. But why would they? What incentive do they have when they're embarrassed and ashamed of the things that they've done, and they don't want the whole world to know it? And these are their excuses for not coming forward. Well, now if they come forward with the fact that I told the truth about everything else, which they already have, it's on my YouTube channel. No sense hiding it now. It's on my channel, bud. Just like with Zack Richmond. Just like with Katie Cahill. Just like with Joshua Hebert. Just like with Kayla Trujillo and Mandy Hughes and Alyssa Rainwater. And Sergeant Jones. And Officer Amanda Jonas. There's also quite a bit on there with my calls to the FBI. Everybody kept telling me to go call these places. I called them. I had to call them alone. And I told you how I'd be treated if I had to call them alone. Just like with getting disability, you can't do it alone. You need help. Just like in the courts, if you show up alone, that shows that nobody gives a shit about you. All the support on the internet doesn't do me a goddamn bit of good when you're not looking at the evidence or sharing the evidence. You're just saying it's fucked up. Well, don't just say it. Show it. Now up there, that gas station I've been hanging out at reminds me of something Desiree Leonard says to me. You know what? Let's just put it all out on Front Street. You know what the name of the street is the Astro gas station is on? It's Front Street. Zack Richmond, let's get it all out on Front Street. Dallas Richmond, let's get it all out on Front Street. That's right. Desiree, let's get it all out on Front Street. You want to hide like a coward, that's on you. I didn't make you do that. I didn't make you become the pathetic creatures that you became. All my greatest heroes, all my white knights, they all got dents in their armor. Ain't none of them perfect. And every one of them dents are self-inflicted. Self-harm is rarely about harming oneself, and it is always about abuse. When someone is self-harming, they are trying to get help stopping something, and there is nobody who's listening. We get told that there's all these different places, and if you call all these places, they're supposed to help you, and you call them and they don't help you. And then, of course, You get somebody like Megan Misigatis, who does finally make some of these calls with you. Well, now she's a witness to the things that I said, that I have been trying to get help, that everyone blows me off and tells me it's not their job, and Megan Misigatis herself admitted that. You can go ahead and play victim all you want. That doesn't make you a victim. Gender doesn't make you a victim. And we have allowed women in this country to be taught some pretty horrible things. Things that are entirely untrue and uncalled for. Yeah. If we're going to teach boys that it's their fault for being there, we need to teach girls the same thing. Or we need to start listening to male victims instead of brushing them off, blowing them off, and treating them like it's their fault when you didn't do shit. What the police said and what I did are not the same. When they said I wasn't trying to get help, oh goddamn right, I was trying to get help. Problem is, I wasn't getting help. I was getting bullshit and lied to. Unless these people came forward, those things didn't happen. These people who claim that they tried to help, unless they got those words into the courts, unless they took the steps to put those words into the courts, they didn't try to help. They allowed me to be victimized and treated like I was a liar for saying these people even existed. Megan Misigatis, the stuff that she's saying, oh, well, it doesn't help. Like, you have me recorded on your channel saying that, and it still doesn't help. I'm like, yeah, exactly. I put it on fucking YouTube so the evidence is out there in case something happens to me again. It's going to be out there. But the thing is, it's not going to get into a courtroom without your assistance. And it doesn't have to be Meg Misigatis. Anyone can help me with this. Any one of the people that I've met at Hood River can say, oh, well, you know what? I'd actually like to see that. I'd like to know whether or not you're some sick fucking psycho who's tearing up Hood River, or if you're a decent excuse for a human being who is actually fighting for human goddamn rights. I get all these people's reasons for stabbing me in the back. And I do understand emotionally, as well as physically, what it is that they fear. However, if they're allowed to fear those things, so am I. If they're allowed to fear these internet nut jobs, and they say, oh, well, I'm afraid of these internet nut jobs. Sean was a terrible person because he told these people I exist. No, you had your chance to listen. You had your chance for the things that you obviously already admitted to. You had your chance to get that stuff put in court. You had your chance. At this point, yeah, if Zack Reichmans' daughter got a hold of me and said, my daddy has been touching me and he's having a hard problem because he's got fucked up meds right now, they're not adjusting it right, and I'm afraid he's going to touch me again, would I go to fucking Nebraska and stand between her and her daddy? You fucking goddamn right I would. Even if it meant going to prison. Sorry, I killed a mosquito. He was biting me on the thumb. Even if it means going back to prison. You don't touch little kids. Maybe it's not Zack. Maybe it's Pastor Rod Wright who's doing it. Maybe it's one of her teachers. You never know. Might be her mom. Might be her grandma. I'm not going to pretend that, especially with all the women, especially recently, who've told me about the female predators in their lives, I'm not going to rule out any of the females in her life as her potential predators. And I'm not going to rule out that her relatives wanted to blow her off, because girls wouldn't do that. Mothers wouldn't do that. Grandmothers wouldn't do that. They absolutely would. It depends on individual cases, not on gender. That adult who had sex with Jerry Sparks' son when he was underage, is she representative of every single woman? No, she is not. Just like pedophiles are not representative of every single man. One thing is very clear, however. Zack Reichmans' daughter is in an unsafe situation. And whatever the fuck it is, it's something that needs to be stopped. For her, cutting on herself, she's likely already got the mentally ill tag, which means whoever's victimizing her can do it whenever they want, over and over and over again. All right, you crazy old kook. I'm making a video and it's on your topic. How much do you dislike molesters?
Well, considering I had one come into my job, I work here, he fucking accused me of stealing shit while the cops protect him because he snitches on the meth dealers around here. So the cops will work with a pedophile. You can rape children in fucking Hood River, but you can't be poor and be left alone.
Amen.
When they allow a Mexican pedophile to come into this town, rape children, drive around with an infant child, and then screw up a homeless man's trying to get off the street.
Now, between that guy and the feller that was trying to run over a homeless man working at the gas pumps, which one do you like least?
The pedophile, of course. The pedophile
See?
fucked with me. I only got mad at them because they fucked with me because I wouldn't treat him like shit because they didn't like him. That's why they got mad at me. Like, I don't treat people like shit because someone else don't like them. So,
all right, so I do want to ask you two questions while I got you, if it's all right.
Okay, could you walk up and get me weed?
Not at the moment.
Huh?
I don't.
Oh.
I left it up there at the gas station. They gave me a goodie bag with like some pants. Thank good. See, clean pants.
Okay.
All right, but what I was going to say is, all right, when you were talking to me earlier about how you were raised with minorities and you weren't racist and you had to learn it, where did you have to go to learn how to be racist? Pennsylvania. That's a northern state, is it not?
Yeah, but it was a small town, a Italian-run town. They didn't have any minorities when I first got there, other than a small black family that was 2 daughters, a son, and their dad. And that was about the only black people in the town. And then later on, like about 10 years later, a couple Puerto Ricans started moving in. But they have a good point. As a matter of fact, I mean, without colored people, we didn't have people shooting each other. With colored people, we did. Well, with a lot of colored people, not with the...
And see, that comes down to the numbers that we're given. A lot of the stuff that we're looking at, like, all right, the black on black crime, there's a whole crime wave thing that a lot of racists like to use, and that's where you are personally targeted for this. They tell you stuff like, oh, well, black on black crime, this is, 60% of black on black crime, blah, blah, blah. But when it's white on white crime, they don't call it white on white crime, they just call it crime. They leave out the race if it's a white people. If it's a white person who committed the crime, that's generally left out too.
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely, like, fucking, what do you call that, systemic racism in like every single bit of our fucking country. But it's honestly not even a matter of color, it's a matter of wealth. And it's a matter of
those Hispanic folks that were hounding you money out there versus the Hispanic folks who are douchebags, they're obviously not the same people.
Yeah, there's two
different
kinds. I mean,
like the ones that I see giving you money and the ones who are giving me money, they generally have pretty broken down vehicles. Now, the ones that you're having to deal with, they're dealing in drugs, so they're going to have more money than that usually.
Yeah.
Not always, though. Every one of us knows that dealer who's just happy to get his Winnebago up and going.
Yeah. I mean, it goes from, are you selling weight or are you selling just enough so you don't have to pay for your habit? And, you know what I mean? There's two different drug dealers in this world. And most of the drug dealers that are just paid for their habit, are the ones that get busted. It's the
All
big
right,
ones
now.
that they let fucking continue to sell drugs.
He keeps looking over at his dogs. Don't mean to interrupt you.
No,
He keeps looking over at his dogs because his dogs are his family. This is the most important part of his life. And they're over there wanting to get petted, and they're laying down. They're behaving so well. They really are. But he just keeps looking over there because that's his family. You keep your eye on your kids. You keep them safe. Yes, ma'am. So that's what we do out here. Not everybody out here is a horrible monster. A lot of us are out here looking out for one another and also looking out for you guys. We don't always know the right thing to do, but we do know that there are occasions and circumstances where whatever needs to be done right now. Not 6 months from now, not 6 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the most important shit. If you're going to do something, do it right, and we don't do anything right in this country, especially our government. The ones we pay to do shit doesn't do shit right.
They do too. They refer us to someone else who doesn't do anything except refer us to someone else. That's what they're supposed to do. That's why we pay them our taxes, so they can refer us to someone else.
And I'm talking about the ones living in gated communities turning our streets into war zones.
Shit, you can find gated communities right here in Hood River.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
All right, so you guys know how I end these videos. Good to be rid of you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper, and no victim left behind.
Well, I'm not a victim.